of the mainstream being attacked by everything that isn't itself.
You know, if someone wants to go down the street, you know, chanting racist epithets and all that, they have the right to do that.
Racism, misogyny at the centre of our political culture.
Prepare to get...
This is a documentary that shouldn't exist, according to the people it's about. They say that the old media has deliberately shut them out. They say that the reason they exist at all is because the mainstream media has lost its way, is too reactive, intellectually dishonest, a slave to the dead hand of political correctness. While mainstream journalists scan Twitter for their news morsels, just out of their eye line, over on YouTube, something vast has been brewing. A new breed of homespun political commentator. Not always pretty, provocative in tone, uncompromising in content.
The more you blithely regurgitate the same brain-dead progressive cliches, the less people care.
Is radical feminism a refuge for fat, ugly women? The stereotype generally holds true. They look like swamp donkeys.
That's Paul Joseph Watson. His YouTube bio says simply culture, controversy, contrarianism. He has 1.4 million YouTube subscribers. He gets 500,000 views per video. For reference, that's about the same as an episode of Newsnight. He has more Twitter followers than any UK journalist, more than Andrew Neil, more than Laura Kuenssberg, or Nick Robinson. Once, Paul Joseph Watson ran his channel from his mum's house. Now, he has a very big flat in London.
Hello everyone, I'm interviewing Steve Bannon. We are raising the alarm now, because we know that ultimately you want us all gone.
That is Sargon of Akkad. Real name, Carl Benjamin, a 38-year-old father of two who broadcasts from his garage in Swindon. Pithy, angry, intellectual carve-ups of his enemies, social justice and progressive politics. He has 850,000 YouTube subscribers.
Hello, my dudes. I'm here to tell you a secret that communists don't want you to know. Just as soon as this beat drops.
That's Count Dankula. He has 380,000 YouTube subscribers. For reference, The Guardian's star journalist Owen Jones has 113,000. Together, they're the leading lights in what they'd call the alternative media, a new street-fighting commentariat who've made their own audiences from nothing but their capacity to pull people in. I'm Gavin Haynes. Over the last 3 years, I've been watching them slowly crawl out of the internet swamps and evolve themselves into a force that, I believe, now needs to be taken seriously. They're all on the right. They style themselves as classical liberals. All three have courted controversy, and controversy has found them. Count Dankula has a hate crime conviction. Sargon of Akkad is banned from Twitter. Paul Joseph Watson is closely associated with the ranting American InfoWars kingpin Alex Jones.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay!
Recently banned from almost every social media platform going. All have voiced support for Tommy Robinson, former leader of far-right English Defence League. But one reason you still might not have heard of these people is that while Twitter has become a parlour of the left wing, YouTube is increasingly a bastion of the right. Out there, the talk is of the biological basis of gender, the economic fallacies of mass migration, the moral bankruptcy of the Davos elite. Carl Miller runs the Centre for the Analysis of Social Media at the Demos think tank. He's watched the narratives come apart. It might be new to many, but it's definitely not new.
This has been happening much longer than I think most of us recognise. It's been long sailing under the radar of the mainstream establishment. Already in 2000, you can see on hacker forums, on places like 4chan, you already see the kind of fermenting subculture beginning to emerge. Already they're railing and raging against what they regard to be the shackles of mainstream politics, and already they're building both a narrative and account which is an alternative to it. Already they're building almost a manifesto, really, of what they really want to replace progressive politics with.
This matters because YouTube is increasingly TV. Run the numbers. 92% of 18 to 25-year-olds get their news from the internet, 8% from traditional telly. 25 to 35, 62% from the internet. In short, there's an iceberg coming. What we think of as the mainstream is about to be thinned out by the passage of time. What we thought was the tail is about to become the dog. This new online right-wing has no name and many. The intellectual dark web, classical liberals, internet libertarians, edgelords. It has a problem defining itself because, in many ways, its credo is oppositional. They oppose an emergent mainstream consensus on what's known as identity politics. They hate all curbs on free speech. They reject most ideas of globalism. Which would make Ash Sarkar of hard-left online portal Novara Media their natural foe. Sarkar is most famous for telling Good Morning Britain presenter Piers Morgan that she was a literal communist. So she sits at the exact other end of the spectrum.
These people might present themselves like jokes, but their ambitions are very, very serious indeed. They're not content to remain at the margins of the outer edges of the internet. They want to dominate our streets. And unless we want to see the most egregious forms of racism, misogyny at the very centre of our political culture, then we need to fight them very, very seriously.
Well, you should see what they say about her. And that really is what we have here. There's a culture war going on. It's nasty, brutish, and very, very long. Out there, in the corners of the internet, two distinct ideological lenses are being shone on the same events, each vying for media supremacy. I just stepped off the train in Swindon, Wiltshire, where I'm about to go and meet a man called Carl Benjamin, who goes by the name Sargon of Akkad on the internet. He is the only figure from this movement to so far have agreed to meet with us. The others seem somewhat publicity shy when it comes to the mainstream media. He's at a pub just down the road, so let's head there now. Hi, Carl. Gavin, BBC. If you had to boil it down, what do you stand for?
I stand for English liberalism, as opposed to various collectivist strains of continental ideology that are trying to centralize power away from the average person within this country. The driving goal of liberalism and English political tradition was to decentralize power and hold power to account.
That British liberalism means treating people as ends in themselves, rather than means to an end. A principle Sargon of Akkad feels we've abandoned. Classical liberals say that they care about the rules above all. They say they care about equality of opportunity and leave equality of outcome to sort itself out. But politicians are more pragmatic. In Britain, affirmative action is now authorised under the 2010 Equalities Act, and in recent years the talk is of identity, gender audits and systemic racism, things that Sargon of Akkad stands in stout opposition to. But does that mean there is no problem? I wanted to know how prevalent he thought racial discrimination is in the UK.
Institutionally, there is no racial discrimination against non-white people, for example. Racial discrimination has been institutionalized in our country, but it's not against non-white people. White men are the ones who are failing in this society, and they're doing it because there are various kind of affirmative action programs to promote non-white people at their expense. It's not that I want to see any kind of racial discrimination. It has been institutionalized.
Sargon of Akkad feels that saying